Thank you for taking the time to watch this. Okay, so there are three main scientific components to this approach. The first being polyvagal theory, and that's what I want to talk to you about right here. Okay, so the real essence of polyvagal theory is how does it apply to your own experience, and how can you utilize it to really making positive changes to what it's like to be you from the inside out. So the three main components of polyvagal theory that we are going to apply in this approach are first understanding neuroception, that at all times, moment to moment, your nervous system beneath the level of conscious awareness is constantly scanning for cues of risk or cues of safety. And it's doing that in the environment all around you. So right now, everywhere around, behind you, above, below, the environment all around you. It's also doing that on the inside. It's getting feedback from all of your visceral organs. It's checking out your whole body on the inside. How are you breathing? How's the heart beating? All of those different things. It's getting feedback. How's my digestion going? Inflammation. It's getting cues of safety or cues of danger and risk. And then it's also getting cues of danger or safety from another. So any other mammal or human that you are interacting with, or even who are in the environment all around you, you're picking up on their postural positions, their facial cues. You're even hearing their tone of voice. And your nervous system, through neuroception, is continually evaluating whether it's safe, or whether it's dangerous, or whether it's life-threatening, right? So that's the first part, is just knowing neuroception is always going on. It's not a top-down, it's a bottom-up, okay? It's always happening beneath the level of conscious awareness. Second part is the hierarchy, right? So it's how do we move now? What happens in our body? What happens in our nervous system based on what our neuroception sees or hears or feels, right? So the first top of the ladder, the autonomic ladder, the place where we want to anchor most often, is called the ventral vagal complex. And that place is where our nervous system has detected that it's safe, right? So there's enough cues of safety that they outweigh any cues of risk, or the cues of risk have resolved and your nervous system and your body feel safe, feel grounded, feel supported, it's solid, it's reliable. Okay, and in that space, that's where you have visceral homeostasis. Your heartbeat is flowing as you breathe in, the heart rate speeds up. As you breathe out, the heart rate slows down. It's coupled with your respiration. You have the inflammation system working well, your immune system is all in line, digestion, elimination, everything is working in a nice balanced place because your nervous system feels safe. That's the ventral vagal complex. Now, along comes some risk that neuroception picks up on, whether it's another person, whether it's just something in the environment, or whether it's within your own body, right? All of a sudden, there's a little indigestion or something going on. Now, a little bit of a cue of risk or danger. The first line of defense, okay, if it's enough of a cue that your body deems you need to respond to it, first place the body goes in the hierarchy is into sympathetic mobilization. And that is either mobilization into fight or flight. Gotta get the heck out of here. Okay, so really simple. Ventral vagal, if there's cues of risk or danger, neuroceptively, that you neurocept beneath conscious awareness, you go into either sympathetic mobilization in fight or sympathetic mobilization in flight, right? That is meant evolutionarily to increase metabolism, raise energy, increase your heart rate, suppress your heart rate variability, right? Increase blood pressure, release some of the adrenals and cortisol, get that HPA axis coming online, get everything mobilized so you can fight or run, right? And it's also meant to be short-lived. It's not meant to last for hours and days and weeks and years, okay? It's meant to face the challenge, to overcome the challenge, and then to come back up the ladder into ventral. Unfortunately, that's not what often happens. So, also in today's world, we mobilize, we energize, but what we're mobilizing against doesn't allow us to actually move that energy, right? We're actually mobilizing against something that isn't enabling us to discharge that energy through. So that energy has nowhere to go. It gets stuck. It's actually a maladaptive response. So that's what we call stress. So we talk about living in a stressful world. The way Polyvagal, the way Stephen Porges defines stress is that it's a maladaptive response, right? So you're perceiving or neurocepting danger, you mobilize, but the actual challenge you're facing doesn't require mobilized energy to overcome it. And so now that energy has nowhere to go. Okay, now it's stuck. And so now what do? Well, now what you need to do is you need to learn how to discharge, how to actually organize that energy in a way to discharge it so that you can release and recover back into ventral vagal. But that's for another lesson. So now the challenge is there. You've been going against the challenge. You don't get anywhere. It's overwhelming. It's relentless. It's too big. It's too much. You don't have the resources to overcome it. Now what happens? Well, so now that danger that you neurocepted as dangerous now evolves into a neuroception of maybe it's life-threatening. And so now your response in the hierarchy, the next place to go is what's called the dorsal vagal complex. You drop down the ladder on the autonomic nervous system ladder, and you're in a place of dissociation, numbness, checking out, maybe even collapse, maybe even passing out. Okay? And again, just like sympathetic mobilization, dorsal vagal dissociation or dorsal vagal shutdown isn't necessarily a conscious choice. Right? It's reflexive, it's adaptive. So, top of the ladder ventral, middle of the ladder, when there's enough cues of risk that your neuroception deems it's dangerous, you can mobilize into sympathetic, fight or flight. It's reflexive, it's adaptive, it's at the neural level, physiological, biological level, not a top-down process. If that doesn't overcome the challenge, that doesn't remove or resolve the danger, next in line, life threat, the dorsal vagal shutdown, dorsal vagal collapse, dorsal vagal numbing, dissociation, right? It's a hierarchy. So that's the second part of the polyvagal theory. And the third primary part of the polyvagal theory is co-regulation. In other words, you, me, all of us were born with the biological need to regulate or to co-regulate with another human or another mammal, right? So from the time you were born, when you were first held or first fed and you learned to suck and swallow and breathe and communicate with your caretaker, that's still in you. That's a part of being human. Mammals and humans need other mammals and humans to survive, from the very first breath to your very last, right? So that is really good to know and to acknowledge. So even if you are comfortable and you're sitting in ventral and you're really okay with solitude, not loneliness, but solitude, time by yourself, that's okay, that's awesome. While at the same time, you still need relationships that you trust and feel a sense of belonging and connection with. It's really important, right? And so that's the third part, is that co-regulation is a vital part of well-being and health and quality of life. And polyvagal theory also tells us that the neural regulation of your heart and your lungs, your breathing, digestion, all of those things, okay, are tied into the neural regulation of the striated muscles of your face and head. So the ventral vagal complex, which regulates the heart rate through the sinoatrial node, okay, that rhythm, that speeding up as we breathe in and slowing down as we breathe out, coupled with our respiration. That ventral vagal regulation of the heart and bronchi is tied in through a nucleus on the brainstem that's very close, and they connect to the nucleus that controls cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 11 as well, which control the muscles around your eyes. So you can contract and show cues of safety and connection in your eyes, or cues of danger. Look out, get away from me. They also control the regulation, the neural regulation of the middle ear muscles, which allow you to hear certain frequencies in another's voice. You can hear the cues of welcome and warmth, and you can also hear the cues of danger. Changes the neural regulation of your larynx and pharynx so that you can express intonation and modulation and those specific frequencies that another human or mammal can understand and interpret as safe and welcoming, or dangerous and threatening. And it also controls your posture, your gaze, the way you move your head and carry yourself. All of those things, the neural regulation of the striated muscles of the face and head, are tied in to the same vagal regulation of the heart and lungs. So that's a really important piece to know as well. So those are the primary bits of information from the polyvagal theory that if you can really get a grasp of, and when you read the rest of the material attached to this, that will help you to really begin to see through the lens of the nervous system, kind of how you're moving through your day, where you are moment to moment in your own nervous system, which gives you the chance to sort of settle in, right? And be a little more patient, a little more compassionate with what's going on, and to realize that it's not just you thinking a certain way, or it's not just that you lack some behavioral control, or your motivations are flawed. You can start to realize that, oh, wait a second, actually, right now my nervous system is revved up in fight mode, and interesting. So how can I now either utilize that wisdom, utilize that energy in a productive way, right? Or how do I actually move out of that environment, out of that interaction, in a way that now I can resolve the cues of danger and start bringing more cues of safety into my nervous system before I make some decision I'll regret later, or take some action that I might regret later. So that's how this sort of, in a real simple way, will apply to what you'll learn through this approach.